I'm here with my man James. Arsenal 1, Shakhtar Donetsk 0. Now, I've got to say, the way we started is not the way we finished, obviously. But the way we started, we made a nice positive start, dominating the ball, looked quite sharp actually, missed a couple of chances. 29 minutes into the game, Gabriel Martinelli cuts inside, shoots. It goes in off the keeper, but it was unfortunate for Gabriel Martinelli. Up until then, I thought he'd been playing very well, actually. But anyway, it goes in, and you're thinking, right, now Arsenal are going to go on and really do something tonight and really, put it on them and show the doubters following the game against Bournemouth that we're back. But I think it's fair to say that we never quite hit those heights. Give us your explanation for that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm the idiot who predicted a 4-0. Because I thought Arsenal would flex and remind everyone, look, Bournemouth was just a moment. But it seems to be that something wasn't quite right about the Southampton game. Something certainly wasn't right about Bournemouth. And we've carried that into a third game. So it's now becoming form more than just blips or bumps. So that's slightly concerning. Because if you go back before that, PSG, I thought we were brilliant. I think that was our performance of the season, or certainly one of them. I think you go before that, when we beat Leicester 4-2. Yeah, never good to be 2-0 up and back to 2-2, but I think that was a 6-0 performance. I thought we were great on the day. So it's one of those where it's now becoming a touch concerning, but I'm more concerned. But I trust Arsenal to wriggle their way out of it. I trust them to just, via training and playing games and momentum to find their way. Teams go through patches of form. They go through better bits of form. And no team, especially even ones that are trying to win the Champions League and Premier League, no team goes through a consistent, wonderful patch. So, okay, we're in a bit of a bad patch. What's more concerning me is maybe the state we are injury-wise going into Sunday. Because I think Arsenal can shake off this form, but it's a lot harder to do without key players.
Yep, I would agree with that. Now, we were talking about the so-called lack of cutting edge that's been evident, I've got to say, in the last couple of games. I mean, for example, we haven't scored a goal. An Arsenal player hasn't scored since the international break. I mean, today's goal was an own goal. And as I said, after we scored, we looked a bit lacklustre. Now, I've been talking to a few other people about this and what the reason is. And the obvious thing is to say that Martin Odegaard, who is, let's face it, our talisman up top, is not available, and we're now starting to miss him more than we thought we would. Yeah. How much of that do you think is true, or do you think there's other extenuating circumstances?
You're going to miss Martin Odegaard, aren't you? Yeah. But it's such a difficult. It's a really difficult one, Laurie. I think this is one that maybe I'll have more thoughts after. A series of 5-6 games. But the problem is that I want it to get to 5-6 games. I want us to get back to the good against Liverpool, and then we're not talking about this. I don't really know, because there were moments today where, for example, let's talk about some things we did well today. I thought the press was brilliant. I thought our ability to win the ball high up the pitch was fantastic. What we did after was really poor. I actually think the Arsenal players, against Bournemouth, I accuse them of not being concentrated. I think whatever lack of quality there was today, I don't think there was a lack of concentration and focus. I just don't think the things they wanted to do from a technical perspective came off. In terms of missing Odegaard, yeah, we're going to miss Odegaard, but I don't really think that's enough of an excuse. I mean, where the dynamics have changed slightly, and this is explanation, not justification. I really want to make that clear. Odegaard, when he's in the right 8, he drifts out to the right to support Saka or the right winger. And then we press as a 2 with Odegaard sort of as the right of the front 2 with Havertz on the left. Now, what we've done to counter the fact that Odegaard's not there and Havertz is more comfortable on the right and Trossard more comfortable on the left, we now still have Havertz up front, but Trossard is pressing from the left, so we don't have quite the same support down the right. So I feel like not only are we missing the quality of personnel down that side, I think we're lacking just personnel in general. There was moments where we played some lovely football between maybe Partey and then Jesus and then Ben White, and then there was a massive gap that no one had entered. But the minute Havertz enters that, you've lost your striker, who's your threat, who's the one who's stretching the back four, or the one who's opening the game up a little bit. So does that explain the problems? I don't know, but I'm just not sure it's a tweak that's really worked for us. And that's something we've tried to do in the absence of Odegaard, though it has worked against PSG and others, to be fair, I will say that. So look, I haven't really answered your question. I've just tried to explain where maybe Arsenal are a little bit different in what they're trying to do with Odegaard. We've not really gone for a like for like, because if we did, Nwaneri seems the guy. But Arteta seems very reluctant to go with that. So yeah, I don't really get it at the moment, if I'm honest.
No, that's a very reasonable answer. I was going to ask you as well. There has been comments. I've seen some online today that Arsenal, again, tended to play down to the level of the opposition. That's no disrespect to Shakhtar Donetsk. I'm just echoing what some of the fans are saying. What do you think of that?
Ooh. I'm not sure that's ever really been a thing in football. I mean, so funny, right? Like, tennis is a good example of this sport. Have you played tennis before?
Yeah.
So if anyone who has, there's something about tennis. It's weird. Like, when you play with someone who's not very good and they hit the ball in quite a bobbly, high up in the air way, it forces you to try and control a very unnatural ball and hit it well back in the same way. It's very difficult to read it. Whereas when you're playing with a pro or a coach who hits a nice flat ball, it's much easier to redirect that flat ball. So in that kind of sport, and maybe in others, maybe boxing is similar, because if someone's a messy boxer,
exactly,
you have to...
A guy can bring another guy down to another level if their technique is a bit off or unorthodox. It can make the established boxer look... Yeah, I get what you're saying.
I don't think that's a thing in football. I think maybe back in like maybe 10, 15 years ago in the Premier League, when you had teams that liked to sort of kick you about a little bit, then you were in more of a scrap and you had to adapt to that. But that's more about the physicality of the game, not the quality of the game. I think Shakhtar played their part in this game more than. I don't think we would sort of drop down to their level or anything like that. I just think we've just not looked our sharpest, and also we haven't looked our most confident in around the area, because there were moments, and I think Turkish was calling them openings. They're not quite chances. They're the bit before the chance comes, where you're thinking, right, pass, square, goal, or touch, set, shoot, something like that. But there's always a touch and then another touch, and then the chance has gone. So now I'm going to switch it wide, and you think, well, the attack's still alive, but the threat's just dropped 80%. So things like that about Arsenal were just quite frustrating tonight, and I think we are still capable of manufacturing a lot of chances and becoming a creative, exhilarating side, because it wasn't that long ago that we were doing that against Leicester and PSG. But the last 3 games, we've seemed to have totally lost our confidence in that sense.
Yeah, I would agree with that also. Supplementary to that last question I asked you, so by reverse, do you think that Arsenal playing Liverpool this Sunday, big game, obviously, need to win it, do you think we've got enough within us to raise our game against them, which we're going to have to do, to be honest?
Yeah, I mean, look, actually, let's start on the positives. I think it's the perfect fixture for us, not because I'm really confident we're going to win, but because it's going to tell us a lot about this team. Are you going to sort of rise from the ashes? A bit dramatic, we did win today, but are we going to rise from what's been a poor little patch of form where we haven't been our best, and just flex and remind people? Because that's what we did against Liverpool last season. Last season we played them in February, earlier this calendar year. We'd been on a terrible run, lost 3 games, and then we beat Palace 5-0, but it was as underwhelming a 5-0 as you ever see. Then we beat Forest 2-1 and got a bit edgy. And they were 5 points ahead of us, so we had to win. And we did, and we just reminded them on the day, I know you're 5 points ahead of us, but we're a better team than you. And I'm really hoping history repeats itself in that, okay, we've fallen 4 behind quite early, but let's just try and flex and remind them who we are. Now, if we line up with a back 4 of Timber, White, Gabriel, and Calafiori, I'm feeling really good about it. Hell, even if it's Timber, White, Gabriel, and dare I say Zinchenko at left back, I'd feel we can go do that. People forget Zinchenko played the game in February when we beat them 3-1 and we looked really good. But they were missing Salah, we'll say that. But if there's anything that needs to be done in terms of Partey moving to right back, or Kivior starting centre back, then it all becomes a lot more concerning for me, because I'd still back us to play some football and hurt them, but they can really hurt us. So I think the game's come at a perfect time, but I'm keeping an eye on that injury news.
Yeah, the injury news, we still don't know if Saka's going to be available. We're hoping and praying that he is. And there's a couple of doubts. Calafiori we saw come off today. We're hoping. I'm not sure if you've heard anything. I've not seen anything online.
Arteta said that it doesn't look good, but they'll see. I'm paraphrasing, so please go check the quote before you go crazy about what he means by that when he says it doesn't look good. But it was something along those lines. And then with Saka, he said he's unlikely for Liverpool because he hasn't even trained with the group yet. Which I think what really frustrates me about that quote is Arteta literally said, they're close. Let's, yesterday, talking about Timber and Saka, he said they're both, they're close. Let's see how they do with the group. So what about them on today's Tuesday. What about them on early Monday was close that by Tuesday evening, they're now so far away that come Sunday, you think it's now unlikely they play if they had a setback of some kind. So I don't know. Is it Arteta playing mind games? If it is, it winds us up. But I get it. It's clever. But yeah, a bit frustrating that. But let's see.
Okay, then. Well, to wrap up, let's try and keep an air of positivity. I mean, we did win tonight. We kept a clean sheet. We're unbeaten so far in the Champions League. I think we're fourth as the table stands at the moment. Do you think, as I think, and most people think, that we'll be able to qualify automatically in the top 8 places? Are you seeing enough for you to say that?
Yeah, because today we weren't great and we still won in a Champions League night. Like, you know, come on, it wasn't that long ago that we were kind of longing to be back in it because, you know, it'd been so long. And yeah, this wasn't scintillating, but it was job done. And there's 8 games, and that's 2 wins and a draw in our first 3. We haven't conceded a goal in the Champions League. Come on, there's lots of positives from tonight. It's far from scintillating. And it's probably, you know, more concerns than there are positives to take out of it. But a win's a win. Like, always enjoy that, and just hope it gets better. That's on Arteta and the coaches and the players. You know, improve on that, because that doesn't feel sustainable. But I've seen plenty from Arsenal this season alone. Forget the last 2 seasons. I've seen enough from Arsenal this season alone to know that they'll pull it back and that this is just a blip in a moment, rather than a true reflection of who they are as a team. So come through it, beat Liverpool, and trust me, things look very, very different.
I like the sound of that. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Lauren, in a bit.